everybody and welcome back to the Blossom Crochet channel. In this tutorial I will be showing you how to create this absolutely incredible, perfect V-stitch granny square. Now you can see that this lies absolutely perfectly flat. There is no rippling, there is nothing. It is perfectly flat all the way along, okay? So I have a tutorial for a V-stitch on my channel already, but a lot of people were having issues with that rippling after getting to a certain round. So I've had a really good play around with the pattern and I've got it so that I think it's definitely going to stay absolutely perfectly square and perfectly flat for you no matter how many rounds you do. So for this one I'm using the amazing Mega Yarn Cake, which is a hand-tied cake from Puff Flower, and this is the shade Birthday Cake. So it's an absolutely huge cake of yarn, which is going to mean no ends, which is fabulous for me. Now this is the perfect cake to use for a centre out project because when you work from the middle, the yarn colour changes are a little shorter and then get longer as you work out, so that lovely colour change happens at a really complementary pace, if you like, as your project grows. So there's working from the middle, you've got shorter colour changes, and then like I say, they get longer as you work out, so it's absolutely perfect for a centre out project. I will leave a link for this yarn in the description. This is not finished yet, I still have tons more yarn left to use and it's beautiful. So this is a project where you really need to trust the process at certain points, okay? There will be, especially as we start off, there will be points where you think this is absolutely not working. But I promise you, if you keep going and follow the pattern, you will get something that looks like this. So it is absolutely beautiful and so neat. So there is obviously a right and a wrong side to this because we are not turning every round. If you want to turn every round, you absolutely can, but I just found that I didn't need to. So I'll just show you the back as well because the back is equally as beautiful. So we will just jump in now with the tutorial. You can use absolutely any yarn and just use whatever hook size your selected yarn recommends. Like I say, I will leave the yarn information for this in the description box. You're going to start with your slip knot on your hook and you're going to do a chain 4. 1, 2, 3 and 4. You're then going to slip stitch into this very first chain to make a circle. So insert your hook, yarn over and pull through both of those loops, and that will then give you a centre circle to work your stitches into. So the entirety of this project is made using UK trebles, or in the US these will be your doubles. So we want to chain 2 and that will count as our first UK treble, and then into this centre circle you want to work 2 more trebles. So yarn over, insert into that centre circle, yarn over and pull up, and you'll have 3 loops on your hook. Yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. So that's 1 and we want 1 more. So yarn over again, back into that centre circle, yarn over and pull up, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. We want to create a corner now, so you want to chain 2 and then back into that same centre circle you'll do 3 trebles. 1, 2 and 3. Again, chain 2 to create a corner, and you're going to do that 2 more times. So you'll end up with 4 sets of 3 trebles. And just remember to do your chain 2s after your sets of trebles for your corners. So 1 final set of 3 trebles. Chain 2. So always make sure you've got that very last chain 2, and then you're going to slip stitch to the top of that chain that we did at the beginning of the round. So again, yarn over and pull through both for a slip stitch. Okay, so now we want to chain 2, and then we're going to finish off this corner when we get back round to it. We're going to skip all of these trebles now, and we're going to work straight into our corner space, and we're going to do our first V-stitch. So you'll treble into that corner space and then another treble. So we're not chaining between our trebles to create our V's, we're just going to do 2 trebles next to each other. We're then going to chain 2 to create our new corner space, and then back into that same space you'll do another V-stitch, so 2 more trebles, 1 and 2. Again, you're going to skip all these trebles and work your next corner space. So V-stitch, so 2 trebles next to each other, chain 2, and then 2 trebles back in that corner space. Now this round is the first round of trust the process, okay? So it will curl up on you like a little ball. That is fine. Again, your next corner space, you'll do your V-stitch, chain 2 and V-stitch. And then in your final corner space you will be doing a V-stitch, a chain 2, and then if you remember we've already got a chain 2 from the beginning of the round, so we only want 1 more treble into there, and then you're going to slip stitch to the top of that chain 2. Now that chain 2 will be pulled sideways, so you just want to find the top of that chain 2 and you'll slip stitch for your final V-stitch. As I say, it will curl up like a little hat, and that's fine. Don't panic. Now at this point obviously we're going to start working a normal round of V-stitches. Okay, so once we've slip stitched to close that round, we want to slip stitch into the space between these 2 trebles. So in your next corner space you've got your first proper V-stitch, so we're going to slip stitch into the middle of those trebles, and then you want to chain 2, which will count as your first treble, and then back into that same space you'll do another treble, so your first V-stitch, and then into your chain 2 you're going to do V-stitch, chain 2, V-stitch, all into that same corner space. Okay, and then again in between your V-stitch you're going to work a new V-stitch, so not into the tops of the stitches, make sure you're going in between the posts of those stitches. And then again skip to your next V-stitch and do a V-stitch. And then again you should be at your chain 2 space where you will do your V-stitch, chain 2, V-stitch. Okay, so you should be able to repeat that all the way around now. You're going to do a V-stitch into your V-stitch, so you've got 2 more V-stitches on each side, and then in your corner space you will do V-stitch, chain 2, V-stitch. Okay, and from this point on, when you join to close a round, you're not going to join into the top of the chain 2 space, you're going to join into the gap between those 2 trebles on that first V-stitch. So in between those stitches you will slip stitch. So you can see we are starting to flatten out already. So the key to keeping the blanket really flat so that it doesn't have any rippling is that you're going to be doing normal rounds of V-stitch, and then you are going to have a skipped round of V-stitch. So that will make more sense when we get to it, but that is the key to keeping it really flat, because if you just whiz along doing all these V-stitches it will start to ripple. So it's really important to make sure that you have the skipped round when we get to that as well. So we've now got 2 rounds of our proper V-stitches. Obviously we've got our normal granny centre, but then we've got 2 rounds of V-stitches. So we're going to do another round of V-stitch, so chain 2, and then back into that space you'll do a treble, and that's your first V-stitch. And then you'll V-stitch into the next V-stitch, and then you'll be at your chain 2 space where you will do your 2 trebles, chain 2 and 2 trebles. And then you should have 4 V-stitches down each side at this point to work into. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and then your corner space. So you'll work a V-stitch into the middle of each V-stitch from the last round. And then your V-stitch, chain 2, V-stitch in your corner spaces. And again, I will see you to close off in just a second. Okay, I'm ready to close off again, so I'm going to close off into the space between these 2 trebles, like so. And at this point your square should be really starting to sit nice and flat. It may still pop up a little bit at the corners, but that's absolutely fine. So at this point we want to do one more round in the exact same way that we've been doing it, but I'm just going to show you at this point how you would change colours in this project. So once you've closed off your round, you will snip off like so. So I've got my new colour on my hook. I'm going to do a standing stitch. You can just chain 2, obviously, it's up to you. And then I'm going to yarn over and pull up, and then I'm going to complete my treble as normal. Now I'm doing it into the centre of the stitch that we've been closing off on each round anyway. And then back into that space I'm going to do my next treble. However, you can choose to join in the corner if you want to, obviously it's completely up to you. I'm just joining in the same place purely for the sake of the tutorial. So we're going to do one final round like this now, just normal V-stitch in V-stitches all the way along. So at this point you should have 6 V-stitches to work into along each side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So you'll increase by 2 on each round, apart from the skipped rounds, which we will get to next. So again, V-stitch, chain 2, V-stitch in your corner space. So if you just work that all the way around, so V-stitch into all 6 of your V-stitches all the way around, and V-stitch, chain 2, V-stitch in your corner space. Okay, so I've just closed off for that round. So like I say, the key to keeping this perfectly flat without any ruffling or without it flaring out at the corners is to do a skipped round. Now a skipped round is exactly what it sounds like. We're going to be skipping certain V-stitches, okay? And depending on your tension, you're going to want to do a skipped round a different amount of rows. So if you're like me and you've got quite tight tension, you can probably get away with doing a skipped round every 5 rounds. So you'll do 4 rounds of a normal V-stitch. So you'll have 1, 2, 3 and 4. And then your 5th round will be a skipped round. However, if you've got quite loose tension, you'll probably find that you need to do it every 4. So you'll have 1, 2, 3 rounds of normal V-stitch and then a skipped round, okay? So you'll just need to play around a little bit and see what works best for you and for your tension. But it's really important that we pop in these skipped rounds every 4th or every 5th round. And when you do a skipped round, I always pop a stitch marker in the corner of a skipped round so that it's easy to keep track of how many I've done since, so that I know exactly when I need to do my next skipped round. So to do a skipped round, you just start as normal with your V-stitches, but you're going to stop at the V-stitch before your corner space. So if you work your next few V-stitches, okay, so I've stopped at the one before my corner space. So I've worked this one and then I'm stopping here. And we're going to skip this last V-stitch completely. And we're going to go straight into our corner space and do our normal corner. So V-stitch, chain 2, V-stitch. So you're completely missing out that last stitch before the corner. And then the same again on this side, we're going to skip the first stitch. So skip this very first V-stitch and work straight into the one after. And then you'll work your V-stitches all the way along until you get to the one just before your corner space. So I've worked it all the way along again, and I've worked into the V-stitch here, and then I'm skipping the last one and working straight into the corner. And do your normal corner space. And then again, skip your first V-stitch and go straight into the one after. So you're going to skip the first and last V-stitch on each side. So if you work that all the way around, and again I will meet you in a second. And then again I'm ready to close off in between those trebles for this round. So you will find that whenever you do a skipped round, your corners will curl in slightly. Again, don't worry, that's exactly what we want, and that is the entire purpose of skipping those stitches, is to stop the corners from fanning out, which makes it bow in the centre. This is what is going to keep it perfectly square. But obviously, because your corners do turn up on a skipped round, I would definitely suggest never ending your blanket on a skipped round. Always do at least one more round after a skipped round, just to flatten out those corners, which is exactly what will happen when you do your next round. So that is it for the pattern itself. You will then, once you've done a skipped round, you will just go back to doing your normal V-stitches, and you'll work a V-stitch into every single V-stitch all the way along, and then you'll work your corner spaces as normal. And so, like I say, depending on your tension, you'll do 4 normal rounds and then a skipped round, or you will do 3 normal rounds and then a skipped round on the 4th. So it completely depends on your tension. But yeah, never finish on a skipped round. If you've only got enough yarn to do one more round when you're meant to do a skipped round, then just do a normal round, okay? Don't finish on a skipped round. But that is it. So you will repeat those rounds over and over again, and then eventually you will have something that looks like this, that sits perfectly flat, perfectly square, and just absolutely beautiful. So that is it for this one. Thank you so much for watching. As always, I really do hope you've enjoyed it. Check out the link for the yarn in the description box. I've really enjoyed using this so far, and I can't wait to see how much further I get out of this yarn. But that's it. But thank you as always for watching, and bye for now.